At the family dinner, his sister sneered. "You are lucky he married you." I nodded until the lawyer arrived with the message. He left everything to her. Their faces? Priceless. Where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it? Go ahead, pause for a second. Take a breath. Subscribe now, because this story won't just entertain you. It might haunt you. I remember the night it all changed, the night I first felt it deep down in my gut, that nothing was ever going to be the same again. The evening was supposed to be normal. Just another family dinner. But nothing had ever truly been normal, had it? We were all sitting around the table, the usual mix of voices filling the air, the clinking of silverware, the soft hum of my mother's laughter, everything so effortlessly curated to look perfect. Except, of course, for the cold, biting tension that I could feel pressing down on me like a heavy weight I could never quite shake off. I used to think it was just me, that I was imagining things, that maybe, after all, I was lucky. But when his sister sneered, "You are lucky he married you," something inside me shifted. I smiled, of course. It wasn't anything new. But I felt it, the barbs buried deep under her words. The judgment, the years of unsolicited criticism disguised as concern, the envy she tried so hard to mask. I nodded, letting the moment pass, but my heart felt like it had just been pierced, and I couldn't quite place why. You know the feeling. That low burn in your chest, when you can't pinpoint the exact moment you started to feel like a stranger in your own life. Yeah, that was it. I had spent so long trying to prove to her, to everyone, to myself, that I belonged, that I mattered, that I was worthy of the life I'd built with him. But maybe I wasn't. Maybe all those quiet little whispers I had ignored for years, all those doubts I had buried deep within me, were right. Maybe I didn't belong here. Maybe I had never really been enough. As I cleared the plates, my fingers trembling slightly, I couldn't help but replay those words over and over again. And then the knock at the door. The sound of a life being handed over. A lawyer's voice that didn't fit with the evening's theme of family and smiles. "He left everything to her," he said. Her. Not me. I almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. How could there be, when I realized in that instant that the life I had built, the one I had clung to so tightly, had never truly been mine to begin with? That's when I saw their faces, his family, all staring at me, their expressions unreadable, yet somehow painfully clear. It wasn't just surprise. It was shock, horror, disbelief. But in the pit of my stomach, I felt something else, something darker. I wanted to scream, but I just sat there, nodding like a puppet, unable to move, unable to speak. I had been part of their game for so long, pretending I could win, pretending I was okay with the rules. But in that moment, as I watched them exchange glances, I understood. I had been the fool. I had never been more invisible. Not even a moment later, I felt my phone buzz. A message from him, one final cruel twist. His words, so cold, so final, sliced through me. "I'm sorry. This was the only way." The truth hit me like a freight train. And in that quiet, suffocating silence that followed, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't feel. I couldn't think. Not clearly, at least. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I don't even remember walking to my car. I don't remember the drive back home. All I know is I couldn't stop thinking about the emptiness inside me. The quiet, unforgiving voice that kept asking, "How did I get here?" As I sat alone in the dark, the silence of the house surrounding me, I couldn't help but wonder, was this my fault? Had I known all along what I was walking into? Could I have done something different? Should I have? And as the weight of that question crushed me, I realized one thing: this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. This was just the beginning. The night after the lawyer left, the house felt like a tomb. Empty, quiet, suffocating. I should have felt something stronger, but there was just this heaviness. Like the world was slowly pulling away from me, unraveling in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. I kept replaying that message in my head. "I'm sorry. This was the only way." I had no idea what that meant. No idea why it felt like a goodbye, but also not. I spent the rest of the night staring at my phone, waiting for something, anything, to make sense of it. But there was nothing. Just silence. He hadn't even bothered to call. I couldn't sleep. I didn't even try. Instead, I stood at the window watching the dark, the night air thick with the weight of my thoughts, choking me from the inside out. And then around 4 a.m., I heard the creak of a door opening. It was my mother standing in the hallway looking at me with those eyes. Eyes I had once thought were filled with concern, but now all I could see was something else. Something colder. "You're up late," she said, but it wasn't a question. It was a statement, like she already knew everything. And maybe she did. For years she had warned me about him, about his family, about how I was too naive, too trusting. "I told you, you should have never married him." The words hit me like stones, and I just stared at her, too stunned to respond. I hadn't even noticed how much I had buried that truth. How many times I had told myself she was just being bitter, just being a mother who couldn't let go. But now, hearing her say it so plainly, I realized she had known something I hadn't. She had known what I couldn't see, the poison in the roots of this family. I wanted to scream at her, to say I had tried, that I had loved him, that I had built a life. But it all felt so hollow now. Even my anger. So I just nodded, staring at her, knowing nothing would change. I wasn't angry at her, really. I was angry at myself for not seeing it. For not understanding that I had been nothing more than a pawn in their game. The next day I got a call from my old friend Lana. She'd been the only person I'd really trusted before all of this, but even she felt distant now. She had always been the voice of reason, the one who saw things clearly when I couldn't. "I heard about the will," she said, her voice tight with something I couldn't place. "I can't believe it. But, there were always rumors about him. I just didn't want to say anything to you back then. I didn't want to make things harder. I didn't say anything at first. What was there to say?" It wasn't until she started talking about his family, how manipulative they were, how he'd always been controlled by them, how he'd been afraid of losing everything, that something inside me snapped. I had never really understood the depth of his relationship with his family, but now it was all too clear. He had been living in a world of fear, and I had been too blind to see it. As I hung up the phone, my hands were shaking. What did I do? I whispered to myself. What did I miss? That's when it all started to unravel. The small things, the whispers I'd ignored. I began to see things I had missed for years. The way he would sometimes look over his shoulder like he was afraid of being watched. The way he would flinch whenever his mother called. The way his sister would always stare at me like she was sizing me up, judging me from the inside out. It all hit me with a sickening clarity. I had been living in a lie. I had never known him at all. And that thought, that realization, tore through me like a wildfire, leaving nothing but ashes in its wake. My mind was spiraling. I was questioning everything, my life, my choices, my worth. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. All I saw was someone who had been played. A fool. And the worst part was I couldn't even be angry at him. Because deep down I knew he had never truly chosen me. He had never really loved me the way I thought he did. He had been too busy fighting his own demons, his own family, and I had been nothing more than a distraction. A temporary fix. And now as the days passed, I found myself sinking deeper. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers like sand, and no matter how hard I tried to hold on, it just kept falling. That's when I found the letter. Hidden behind a pile of old books in the closet, a letter from him written long before we met. It was addressed to his mother. The words inside cut through me like a knife. I never wanted her. I never wanted any of it. But if I don't do this, I'll lose everything. I'll lose them. I'll lose you. Please understand. And suddenly everything clicked into place. He had been trapped. He had never had a choice. But in that moment I realized something else too. He wasn't the only one trapped. I had been too. By my own need to fit in, to belong, to be accepted by a family that never really accepted me at all. I had built a life on a lie, and now I was left with nothing. That's when the text came. A simple message, but the words shattered everything. I need to talk. I made a mistake. Meet me. And just like that, my heart clenched. The decision was mine now. But I knew one thing for sure, whatever happened next, it would be the last time I ever let someone control my fate. I had to decide if I wanted to keep living in the shadows of a life that was never mine, or if I was ready to break free and face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. This was the moment everything would change. But it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like the beginning of something much worse. And as I stared at my phone waiting for the next move, I knew it. This wasn't over. It was just the beginning. I don't know exactly when it happened, when I stopped being the woman who cried herself to sleep every night, haunted by the uncertainty of what had been done to me. But I remember the shift, the moment when something in me snapped and the weight of my pain turned into something else. Something colder. The first time I read his text, I thought I would rush to meet him. I thought I would demand answers, beg him to explain himself, to explain us. But then something inside me held me back. I didn't respond right away. I didn't reach out. I let the silence hang there, heavy, suffocating. I wanted him to stew in the silence, to feel the tension I was feeling. But more than that, I wanted to be in control. For the first time, I didn't need him. I didn't need anyone. I had been living in the shadow of everyone else's lies for so long that I forgot what it felt like to be myself, to make my own choices. I was tired of waiting for someone else to fix things, to save me. That's when I started looking at things differently. I started to see the cracks in everything, the small lies that had woven themselves into the fabric of my life. His family's lies. My mother's lies. My own lies. It was like a fog had lifted. The letter I found, the one he had written to his mother, wasn't just an apology. It was a confession of weakness. He hadn't just married me to please them. He had married me because he was desperate, trapped between his own desires and the suffocating grip of his family. He had never loved me. I wasn't his wife. I was his escape, his prison. And I had played my part too. I had been the dutiful wife, the one who stood by his side, who believed in our future, in the life we were building together. I had made myself the fool, but now I knew the truth. Now the lies tasted bitter on my tongue. The day after I read the letter, my mother came to me. She was quieter this time, more cautious, as if she could feel the change in me. She asked me if I had heard from him, if I was going to meet him. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, and for the first time I saw her for what she really was. She wasn't just my mother. She wasn't the caring, protective figure I had always believed in. She was part of it. She had known all along. I told you you should have never married him, she said again, but this time her tone wasn't one of sympathy. It was cold, almost accusatory, as if she were blaming me for what had happened. You should have listened to me. You always thought you knew better. And that's when I realized she had known the truth all along. She had watched me make mistake after mistake and had said nothing. She had let me walk right into that trap, and maybe, just maybe, she had wanted me to fall. But now there was no more time for questions. No more time for waiting. I had to act. I had to take control of my own fate because no one else was going to. I started digging. Slowly at first, as if I were testing the waters, but then I plunged in deeper, uncovering the ugly secrets buried beneath the surface. I went through his things when no one was home, and I found things that made my stomach turn. Documents. Hidden accounts. Notes from his mother outlining every step of his life, every choice he had made, every move he had taken. All of it orchestrated by her, by them. It wasn't just him. It was his entire family pulling the strings, controlling every aspect of his life. And I had been nothing more than a pawn in their game. But no more. No more would I be their pawn. I found the hidden phone, the one he had been using to communicate with his family behind my back, and I found the messages. The messages from his sister. The ones I should have seen before. The ones that revealed everything. Don't let her find out. She'll never forgive you. You know what needs to be done. Keep her in line. I felt the blood drain from my face. The betrayal was deeper than I could have ever imagined. His sister, the one who had always looked at me with that smug smile, had been conspiring against me the whole time. It wasn't just him. It was all of them. They had planned it all from the beginning. And that's when the fire started to burn inside me. That's when I stopped feeling sorry for myself and started planning. I didn't need him. I didn't need anyone. I had everything I needed. The truth. The weapon. The power. And I wasn't going to let them get away with it. I started thinking about what I could do, how I could make them feel what I had felt, but not in a way they would expect. No, I wasn't going to get angry. I wasn't going to scream or shout or make a scene. I was going to be calm. I was going to be quiet. I was going to make them think they had won, and then I was going to take everything from them. But there was something I had to do first. Something I had to confront. The phone. I had to confront him. I wasn't going to meet him, not yet. But I had to send a message that would rattle him to his core. I went to my phone and typed the words slowly, deliberately. I know everything. And you will pay for what you did. Don't think for 1 second that I'm the same woman you married. I pressed send, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of calm. I knew what was coming next. This was the beginning of the end. But as I stood there staring at the screen waiting for his response, I heard a sound behind me. A creak of a door. I turned and there she was, my mother. And her eyes? They weren't just cold. They were knowing. You don't know what you're doing, she said, but it wasn't a warning. It was a challenge. And that's when I stopped being afraid. I stood there, the words my mother had just spoken echoing in my head, but something in me had shifted. Her challenge, her cold, indifferent gaze did nothing to rattle me. It was as though the last remnants of who I used to be, that person who believed in family, in loyalty, in the hope that things could be fixed, had finally crumbled like dust in the wind. I didn't need her approval. I didn't need anyone's. The plan was set. There was no turning back now. The phone buzzed and my heart skipped a beat. His name lit up the screen, the one I had once loved, the one who had destroyed me, and I almost felt nothing as I read his message. I'm sorry. Please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. The words were nothing more than empty, hollow sounds to my ears now. They meant nothing. What was sorry worth when the damage had already been done? What was an apology when it was just another part of the game they had been playing? I didn't respond to him. Not right away. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. Instead, I turned to the documents, to everything I had uncovered, to the lies I had found buried beneath the surface. I had one last move to make, and this time it would be irreversible. I went to his office late that night when everyone was asleep, and I took what I needed. His entire life, his fake life, was locked away in his laptop, in files so well hidden that it took me hours to find them. But when I did, it was like a floodgate had opened and everything, every single lie he had told, every manipulation, every plan, it was all there. The truth was uglier than I could have ever imagined. But it was my weapon now. And I wasn't going to let it go. I knew exactly what I had to do. The following morning, I met him at the cafe, the one we used to go to when we were still in love, when everything felt possible. He sat across from me, his face pale, his eyes searching mine as if he thought I'd somehow forgiven him. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream at him for being so damn pathetic. But instead, I simply looked at him and said, "You didn't think you'd get away with it, did you?" His face faltered, confusion flooding his features. "What do you mean?" he asked, the desperation clear in his voice. "It's over," I replied, my voice colder than I had ever heard it before. "I know everything. I know what you did, what you've been doing, all of it. And now you're going to lose everything." His breath hitched, and for a split second, I saw the fear in his eyes, real fear, not the calculated, controlled kind he had used with me all those years. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. But that moment passed quickly, replaced by something much stronger. Satisfaction. No more fear. No more hiding. This was my moment. The one where I took back everything he had stolen from me. And then I did it. I pressed the send button. I sent the files to everyone. His family, his friends, everyone who had stood by him and let him manipulate me. I watched his face fall, watched the color drain from his skin as he read the message. And for the first time in years I felt free. I wasn't the woman who had cried over him or over them. I wasn't the woman who had let herself be broken. I was the woman who had won. But as the fallout began, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about getting back at them. It was about something bigger. Something I had never truly understood until now. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for the person I had lost, the person I had buried deep inside me when I was too blinded by love, by loyalty, to see the truth. The world I had known was crumbling around me, and yet I felt nothing but peace. I watched as he scrambled to fix his life, to salvage whatever he could, but it was too late. The truth had come out and there was no going back. And that's when I realized the final twist. I had been a fool not to see it before. His betrayal, his lies, the way he had controlled me, it had all been carefully orchestrated from the beginning. Not by him, but by his mother. The woman I had once trusted, the one who had always told me what to do, how to be, how to live my life. She had been the mastermind behind it all, pulling the strings, watching as her son used me, manipulated me, destroyed me. She had been the true villain, the one who had set this entire thing in motion. And when I confronted her, when I made her face the truth, I saw the fear in her eyes. She had never expected me to find out. She had never expected me to be strong enough to fight back. But I had. I had been stronger than they ever gave me credit for. And that's when everything came crashing down. As I stood there watching her crumble in front of me, I felt something inside me shift once more. The anger that had fueled me was gone, replaced by something much deeper. Peace. I had fought my battle. I had won. And now it was time to walk away. I left the house that night, the house that had once been my prison, and I never looked back. I knew I had left behind the person I used to be, the woman who had been a victim, the one who had been broken by love and lies. I was no longer that person. I was someone else now. Someone who had taken back her power. Someone who had faced the truth and walked away from the lies. And as I walked away from everything, from everyone, I knew one thing. I had finally found freedom. And if you stayed this long, you already know this wasn't just a story. This was a warning. Subscribe. And remember me.